I think Wednesday's Beyond the Gates is shaping up to be one of those episodes that balances heartfelt family moments with the kind of drama that never stays away for long. After everything these characters have been through, it feels like the show is finally giving the Dupri family a chance to breathe, even if I have a feeling the peace won't last forever. The biggest reason to celebrate is Anita Dupri. After courageously battling cancer, she's finally feeling more like herself again. She still has a journey ahead, but reaching this point is worth celebrating. To me, it makes perfect sense that Anita would want to bring her family together, instead of quietly marking the occasion. She has always been the heart of the Dupri family, and when Anita calls, everyone listens. Rather than planning a formal event, Anita decides on a spontaneous family gathering. It looks like an evening filled with laughter, dancing, and precious moments together. After months of emotional storylines involving cancer, the BRCA gene, devastating storms, and life-saving transplant surgeries, I think both the characters and the audience deserve to see the Dupris simply enjoying each other's company. Sometimes those quieter family scenes end up being just as memorable as the biggest dramatic twists. One moment I'm especially curious about involves Noah Rollins. As Kyle's son, he's still finding his place in Fairmont Crest. He's already started building connections, including getting to know Deanna, while pursuing the general manager position at the free clinic. Now the spoilers tease that he'll meet an icon. I was wondering if that icon is none other than Anita Williams Dupri herself. If that prediction is right, it could be a meaningful moment. Anita's legendary career as an articulate makes her someone any aspiring musician would admire. So Noah meeting her at the family celebration would feel like a natural and memorable introduction. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but it certainly seems like the perfect setting for their paths to cross. Of course, no celebration on Beyond the Gates stays completely drama-free. Leslie has been trying to present a kinder version of herself ever since Eva's successful transplant surgery. On the surface, she appears to be turning over a new leaf. But I don't think someone like Leslie changes overnight. We've already seen glimpses of her old habits creeping back, whether it's inserting herself into Eva's interview, clashing with Haley, or putting her own priorities ahead of everyone else's. Now Leslie has an urgent matter to discuss with Ted, and that immediately raises questions. Is she genuinely seeking closure, or is another scheme beginning to take shape? Based on her history, I'm leaning toward the idea that there are deeper motives hiding beneath her calmer exterior. Meanwhile, Vanessa's storyline also looks ready to heat up. Her first meeting with Joey's sister Heather was anything but smooth. Both women clearly care about Joey, but their protective instincts quickly created tension. Instead of accepting the invitation to spend more time together, Heather returned to London, leaving plenty of unresolved feelings behind. Wednesday's spoilers reveal that Vanessa will deliver a harsh reality check, but they don't reveal who will receive it. To me, that's one of the episode's biggest mysteries. It could involve Joey, Heather, or someone completely unexpected. Whatever the case, it sounds like Vanessa won't be holding anything back. Ashley and Grayson also provide an update on their relationship. The spoilers don't reveal exactly what that means, but it certainly suggests they're discussing their future together. Whether they're becoming more serious or simply defining where they stand, their next step could have important consequences for both characters moving forward. Overall, I think this episode offers a welcome mix of celebration, emotional reflection, and brewing conflict. Anita's family gathering has the potential to become one of the show's warmest moments in recent weeks, especially after everything the Dupris have endured. At the same time, Leslie's unresolved agenda, Vanessa's tough conversation, and Ashley and Grayson's relationship update remind us that in Beyond the Gates, happiness is rarely allowed to last without a new challenge waiting just around the corner. I think this episode did a great job of moving several storylines forward while quietly planting seeds for future drama. Some moments felt light and fun, while others hinted that much bigger conflicts are just around the corner. The first thing that caught my attention was Dani's growing curiosity about Andre's unusual fascination with that mysterious champagne bottle. It feels like the show wants us to keep asking why he's so attached to it. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but whenever a seemingly ordinary object keeps getting this much attention in a soap, it usually ends up being important. Before Dani can dwell on it for long, Pamela calls with exciting news. Apparently, a major entertainment writer wants to profile Dani and the people in her orbit. On the surface, this sounds like a huge opportunity, and after having a few drinks, Dani happily lets Andre drive her to Uptown to celebrate with Pamela. What really stood out to me, though, was Andre's reaction. He doesn't seem thrilled at all. It reminded me of how uncomfortable he was during the Forrester Creations photo shoot. That hesitation makes me wonder whether he's simply a private person, or whether he's worried that media attention could expose something he'd rather keep hidden. The celebration itself ends with another intriguing twist, when someone is shown watching the group from outside Uptown. I may be wrong, but scenes like that rarely happen without leading to trouble. Meanwhile, Heather wastes no time stirring the pot with Vanessa. She deliberately brings up her past with Joey, immediately creating tension. Vanessa initially assumes Heather is Joey's former girlfriend, before realizing she's actually his sister. Once that misunderstanding is cleared up, the conversation becomes a battle of polite smiles and subtle insults. Joey eventually joins them, and although Heather claims she's happy for her brother before leaving for London, Joey clearly doesn't believe her good intentions. His warning to Vanessa not to trust Heather tells me this story is far from over. In soap operas, whenever someone supposedly leaves town after making a dramatic entrance, I always wonder if they'll be back much sooner than expected. Anastasia continues proving she can create conflict almost anywhere she goes. She congratulates Martin with her trademark fake sweetness while mentioning how Ted saved her during the tornado. That innocent comment unexpectedly brings back Martin's memories of violently confronting Kenneth months ago. It's an interesting reminder that past actions never stay buried for long. Later, Anastasia turns her attention to Kyle, trying to undermine Nicole by criticizing her romantic history. Instead of agreeing, Kyle casually points out that Anastasia has quite a history of former husbands herself. I actually enjoyed that moment because someone finally pushed back against her hypocrisy. If that wasn't enough, Anastasia threatens to report Joey and Vanessa to the hospital board for violating professional conduct. Their response is priceless. Vanessa reminds everyone about Anastasia's own relationship with Gigolo Diego, while Joey casually reveals that the board has actually been trying to recruit him. The confrontation makes Anastasia look far less powerful than she believes she is. Away from the drama, Martin and Smitty share some lighter moments playing pickleball until Smitty injures himself. Thankfully, Kyle steps in to take them to the hospital, giving the episode a brief chance to breathe before returning to the heavier emotional stories. Ashley also has a surprisingly meaningful episode. She playfully teases Ted about finally admitting his love for Shanice, but later shows genuine humility when Naomi offers her a thank you gift. Ashley refuses it, admitting she hasn't been the friend Naomi deserved. I liked that scene because it allowed both women to acknowledge past mistakes and move toward forgiveness. Their reconciliation feels sincere, even though Ashley later informs Naomi that Ted has officially confessed his love for Shanice, creating another emotional hurdle. Nicole and Keel continue building chemistry during a flirtatious dinner at Uptown, until Pamela interrupts with an unexpected modeling offer for Keel. That was a fun surprise, and another reminder that Pamela always seems to have another opportunity waiting for someone. Later, Nicole visits Ted after hearing the hospital gossip about his feelings for Shanice. Ted confirms everything without hesitation, and the conversation between him and Nicole becomes surprisingly honest. They discuss their complicated personal lives, but things become awkward when Ted suggests Kyle may have an advantage over Carlton. Nicole immediately feels he's crossed a line, reminding him that some boundaries still exist between them. Despite the uncomfortable moment, they end on a hopeful note by agreeing to try rebuilding their friendship. Ted's comment that saving their friendship would mean he hadn't destroyed everything that mattered feels especially significant. To me, it sounds like someone who's finally beginning to recognize the consequences of his choices. Looking ahead, I'm especially interested in the situation involving Chelsea and Kat. Their friendship has been one of the strongest relationships on the show, so watching it fracture has been disappointing. Thankfully, it appears someone will attempt to bring them back together. Whether that reconciliation actually lasts is another question entirely, because in a soap opera, peace is usually temporary. Overall, I think this episode balanced romance, tension, humor, and mystery quite well. Nearly every storyline moved forward, but several unanswered questions remain. Who was secretly watching Dani, Andre, and Pamela? What is Andre really hiding? Can Ted truly repair the relationships he's damaged? And is Heather genuinely leaving, or is this only the beginning of her plans? Those are the questions I'm taking into the next episode. Beyond the Gates. Spoilers. Leslie crashes Eva's interview as Andre finally faces Ted. The next episode of Beyond the Gates looks packed with confrontations, emotional fallout, and a few surprising character turns. I think the biggest question isn't just who argues with whom, but which relationships can actually survive everything that's happening. One storyline I'm especially watching is the growing tension between Chelsea and Kat. After Eva's emotional live stream became a success, Kat still refuses to believe Eva's intentions are genuine. To me, Kat seems convinced that Eva is manipulating both Chelsea and the audience, and that frustration has been building for days. Their disagreement is about to explode into another heated confrontation. This time, though, Chelsea isn't expected to stay quiet. She finally pushes back, turning the argument into a full-blown clash. Naomi finds herself caught in the middle and steps in to broker peace before things spiral completely out of control. Whether she can actually calm them down is another question entirely. I also think this conflict says a lot about how differently Chelsea and Kat see Eva. Chelsea appears willing to give Eva the benefit of the doubt, while Kat remains convinced she's being deceived. Neither woman seems ready to change her position, which could make this rivalry even more intense in the episodes ahead. Another storyline that has my attention involves Andre. For a while now, he's been acting unusually secretive, especially after receiving that mysterious bottle of champagne. The flashback photo showing Dani alongside Andre with the same bottle made me wonder if this isn't just a random callback, but a clue to something much bigger buried in his past. The upcoming episode suggests Andre finally decides to confide in Ted about what he's been hiding. Whether he tells the entire truth or only part of it remains to be seen, but I think this conversation could reshape how Ted views him. If Andre has been carrying a major secret all this time, the consequences could extend far beyond just the two of them. Eva also finds herself back in the spotlight following the success of her live stream with Chelsea. Her growing public attention leads to another interview, but I have a feeling this appearance won't be nearly as smooth. That's because Leslie is set to hijack the interview, and history suggests that whenever Leslie inserts herself into a situation, chaos usually follows. Instead of allowing Eva to tell her story, Leslie's interruption threatens to shift all the attention away from the interview itself and create an entirely new controversy. I'm curious to see how Eva handles being blindsided in such a public setting, especially after finally gaining some positive momentum. Elsewhere, the episode explores a few quieter but potentially meaningful developments. Nicole turns to Dani for relationship advice, which may be influenced by Shanice and Ted's recent heartfelt confessions. Those emotional conversations appear to have encouraged Shanice to start thinking seriously about building a future with Ted. Meanwhile, Deanna reconnects with Noah, opening the door to what could become a promising new romance. It may still be early, but I think the writers are laying the groundwork for a relationship worth watching. Overall, this episode looks like it balances explosive drama with emotional character development. Between Chelsea and Kat's escalating feud, Andre's long-awaited confession, Leslie's disruptive return, and several relationships moving in unexpected directions, there should be plenty of moments that shape the stories heading into the next chapter. Whether these confrontations bring people closer together or push them even further apart will be the biggest question once the episode unfolds. I think Tuesday's episode of Beyond the Gates has the potential to push several storylines forward at once, especially with relationships being tested from every direction. There are a lot of emotional crossroads coming up, and I was wondering which characters will actually come out stronger by the end of the episode. One of the first situations that caught my attention is the ongoing conflict between Chelsea Hamilton and Kat Richardson. Their feud doesn't seem to be cooling off anytime soon, but Naomi Hawthorne steps in to play peacemaker. Considering Naomi's legal background, I think she's someone who naturally knows how to mediate tense situations. The real question is whether this disagreement has gone too far to fix, or if Naomi can finally get both women to see eye to eye. I may be wrong, but this feels like one of those moments that could either repair their relationship or make the divide even worse. Meanwhile, the drama surrounding Eva Thomas continues to build. She's preparing for an important interview, which should be a major opportunity for her. Unfortunately, Leslie Thomas is expected to show up and interrupt everything. Based on Leslie's history, it's hard to imagine she's arriving with good intentions. I have a feeling she'll find a way to turn what should be Eva's big moment into another painful setback. The question is just how much damage she'll cause before it's over. Another storyline I'm especially curious about involves Andre Richardson. He's apparently ready to confess a secret to his uncle Ted Richardson. What's interesting is that the spoilers aren't clear about how much Andre is actually willing to reveal. To me, it sounds like he's been carrying a heavy burden for quite some time, and he's finally reaching the point where he can't keep it hidden anymore. Still, I wonder if he'll tell Ted the complete truth, or only enough to ease his own conscience while keeping the biggest secret buried. At the same time, Ted's relationship with Shanice Johnson appears to be moving into a new phase. Now that they've openly admitted they're in love, Shanice begins making plans for the future. That suggests she's thinking long-term, which could mean anything from moving their relationship forward to making a much bigger commitment. Whether Ted is completely ready for that next step remains to be seen, especially with so much emotional baggage from his past still hanging over him. Then there's Nicole Dupri, who seems more conflicted than ever. After sharing such an honest and meaningful conversation with Ted, she's left questioning where her heart really is. I didn't expect their discussion to have such an emotional impact, especially after Nicole admitted that Ted still understands her better than almost anyone else. That alone makes me wonder if old feelings are beginning to resurface. Of course, Nicole's romantic life is already complicated because of Dr. Keel Rollins and Dr. Carlton Fitzgerald. It's possible she's trying to decide between those two relationships, but I can't help thinking her lingering connection with Ted may be the bigger issue. Sometimes unresolved emotions are far more difficult to ignore than choosing between two new possibilities. Seeking advice, Nicole turns to Dani Dupri. That's an interesting choice because, if I'm being fair to Dani's history, she may not be the most objective person to consult when it comes to ex-husbands and complicated romances. Dani certainly has experience, but whether that experience translates into good advice is another story altogether. I have a feeling their conversation could be entertaining, but I'm not convinced it will make Nicole's decision any easier. Overall, I think Tuesday's episode looks like it's balancing emotional conversations with explosive confrontations. Between Naomi trying to repair broken relationships, Eva facing another obstacle from Leslie, Andre wrestling with a major confession, Shanice looking toward the future, and Nicole struggling to understand her own feelings. There are plenty of storylines that could have lasting consequences. I may be right or wrong, but this feels like one of those episodes where even the quiet conversations could end up changing everything moving forward. I think Tuesday's Beyond the Gates episode is shaping up to be less about big explosions and more about emotional baggage finally catching up with everyone. Nearly every major storyline seems to revolve around insecurity, guilt, and whether these characters are actually ready to confront the truth, or if they'll keep running from it. Naomi Hawthorne finds herself in the middle of Chelsea Hamilton and Kat Richardson's latest conflict, taking on the difficult role of peacemaker. From my perspective, this may be one of Naomi's toughest challenges yet, because the argument isn't really about the live stream anymore. It's about Kat's deep-rooted insecurities, and those emotions have been simmering beneath the surface for a long time. Chelsea crossed a line when she secretly persuaded Eva Thomas to participate in the live stream without Kat knowing. The gamble paid off professionally, and most people viewed the event as a success. However, instead of focusing on the positive outcome, Kat immediately slipped back into old patterns. Her frustration and resentment boiled over, and she lashed out at Eva before turning her anger toward Chelsea. I was wondering if Chelsea will finally manage to make Kat see what actually happened. Chelsea believes she acted with good intentions, but Kat appears determined to see herself as the victim once again. Naomi will likely search for common ground, yet I'm not convinced there's much to work with until Kat is willing to acknowledge her own role in creating these conflicts. To me, Kat showed brief signs of personal growth recently, but those moments disappeared the instant she felt threatened. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like her biggest obstacle isn't Chelsea or Eva. It's her inability to move past her own fears and insecurities. Until she confronts that, every disagreement risks turning into another emotional meltdown. Elsewhere, Nicole Richardson faces a very different kind of uncertainty. Since separating from Ted Richardson, she has been trying to rebuild her life and rediscover who she is. That journey hasn't been easy, but she believes she may have found a fresh opportunity for happiness with Kyle Rollins. Even so, Nicole isn't ready to leap without reassurance. She turns to Dani Dupri for advice, hoping to figure out whether taking a second chance at love is worth the emotional risk. I think this conversation could become far more complicated than Nicole expects. Not long ago, Dani would have enthusiastically encouraged anyone to embrace a second chance because of her own relationship with Andre Richardson. Now, however, guilt is beginning to weigh heavily on her. The secrets she has been carrying threaten to overshadow everything, and I can't help but wonder if Nicole will leave that conversation feeling even more uncertain about her future, instead of more confident. Andre is dealing with his own emotional burden as well. His past refuses to stay buried, and it appears he finally decides to open up to Ted. Andre believes he has figured out who sent him the mysterious champagne, but the answer only raises more questions than it solves. Maybe I'm right, or maybe I'm wrong, but the sender seems likely to be someone from Andre's past, possibly a former romantic partner, or even someone connected to his family. Either possibility has the potential to reopen old wounds and introduce a whole new layer of drama. Ted may prove to be exactly the person Andre needs in that moment. Sometimes simply having someone willing to listen can make all the difference, especially when the truth is difficult to accept. Overall, I think this episode is setting the stage for emotional turning points rather than shocking twists. Naomi struggles to keep the peace between Chelsea and Kat. Nicole questions whether she should risk her heart again. Dani wrestles with guilt that refuses to stay hidden. And Andre takes an important step toward revealing his own secret. Whether these conversations bring healing or create even bigger problems remains to be seen. but they all feel like the beginning of much larger storylines. I think the week of July 27th to 31st is shaping up to be one of the most eventful weeks Beyond the Gates has delivered in a while. There are secrets coming out, relationships getting even messier, and it feels like several storylines are finally reaching a breaking point. The biggest mystery, at least to me, revolves around Andre Richardson. After receiving another anonymous gift, it's becoming clear that someone is deliberately trying to get his attention. We already saw Andre and Dani Dupri receive that unexpected bottle of champagne with no explanation. But now it looks like things are escalating. I was wondering if these gifts are connected to someone from Andre's past, because the spoilers say he'll eventually confess a secret to Ted Richardson. Whether that's about a former relationship or something much bigger, it definitely sounds like Andre is carrying a burden that's becoming impossible to hide. Dani, meanwhile, finally catches a break with some positive news. Pamela Curtis apparently brings her an encouraging career update, and I can't help but wonder if it's somehow connected to the mystery surrounding Andre. Maybe I'm completely off, but since Andre is a photographer, perhaps the anonymous admirer is actually someone with business connections who wants Dani involved in a major project. It would certainly be an interesting twist. Of course, Dani's life wouldn't be complete without another confrontation with Bill Hamilton. At this point, it feels like these two can't go more than a few days without arguing, and somehow their infamous one-night stand keeps finding its way back into every conversation. Then there's Ted Richardson, who apparently crosses a line with Nicole Dupri. I think this spoiler could go in several different directions. Considering the feelings that still seem to exist between them, it's easy to assume emotions could take over. On the other hand, Ted may simply ask Nicole something that feels completely inappropriate given their history. Either way, whatever happens clearly affects Nicole because she eventually turns to Dani for relationship advice. The lighter side of the week comes when Dani unexpectedly walks in on Nicole and Dr. Kyle Rollins in bed. Soap operas always know how to create those awkward moments, and I have a feeling this scene will provide plenty of entertainment while also pushing Nicole's story forward. Speaking of Kyle, his son Noah Rollins appears to be getting closer to Deanna McBride. Their connection continues to grow, and it certainly looks like the writers are building toward a possible romance. Meanwhile, the Dupri family comes together for an important meeting led by Anita Dupri. I was wondering whether this gathering is connected to the ongoing tension between Chelsea Hamilton and Catherine "Cat" Richardson. Naomi Hawthorne apparently tries to smooth things over before the family meeting, but it doesn't sound like she's very successful. If that's the case, Anita may feel it's time to step in and reunite everyone herself. There also seems to be a more uplifting family event on the horizon. After everything Anita has endured with her health, maybe she simply wants to celebrate with her loved ones and create happier memories together. I think that would be a refreshing change of pace amid all the drama. Vanessa McBride also stays incredibly busy throughout the week. She begins digging into Joey Armstrong's sister, Heather Armstrong, and that investigation could end up exposing far more than anyone expects. Vanessa also delivers a reality check to someone, although it's still unclear whether Joey, Heather, or even Deanna ends up on the receiving end. Whatever she's uncovering, it seems important enough that she starts asking even more questions about Heather as the week progresses. Joey Armstrong isn't exactly staying out of trouble either. The spoilers suggest he'll intentionally provoke Deanna into an emotional outburst, adding even more fuel to their growing rivalry. I don't think this conflict is ending anytime soon. One of the biggest developments involves Randy Parker. His cover is finally blown, but the spoilers leave just enough mystery to keep everyone guessing. Is his secret tied to his work with Joey? Or does someone finally uncover his scheme involving Haley Hamilton? Personally, I think the Haley angle would create the biggest fallout because so many characters could be affected at once. Haley herself also finds the pressure building. She has a heated confrontation with Naomi and Chelsea, And by the end of the week, the Dupri cousins compare notes about all of Haley's inconsistencies. To me, it really feels like the walls are closing in on her, and she may not be able to keep her story straight much longer. On the brighter side, Shanice Johnson starts looking toward the future after she and Ted acknowledge their feelings for one another. It seems she's already thinking about what comes next in their relationship, which could open an entirely new chapter for both characters. Ashley Morgan and Grayson Perez also take a significant step forward as their relationship officially becomes exclusive. Compared to all the deception and conflict happening elsewhere in Fairmont Crest, it's nice to see at least one couple moving in a positive direction. Overall, I think this upcoming week has a little bit of everything that makes Beyond the Gates entertaining. Between Andre's mysterious gifts, Randy's cover being blown, Haley's lies beginning to unravel, the ongoing Dupri family drama, and several romances moving in unexpected directions, it feels like multiple storylines are about to collide. I may be right or wrong about some of these predictions, but based on these spoilers, the final days of July could completely reshape several relationships and leave viewers with plenty of new questions heading into August.